Welcome, everyone. This is the premiere issue of the podcast called On the Scene, sponsored by NBT Bank, and it is put together by a whole bunch of people, which is one of the reasons why we wanted to talk this morning before our first guest came on for the next issue. On the Scene is an idea of a podcast for Brtought.com, West Hartford Magazine, Jewish Ledger, 2020 Media, just a whole bunch of names you've heard out there in the marketplace that my guest today, Bob Carr, who's a partner in crime, the managing editor of Brtought.com. Say hello, Bob.
Hello, so it's the managing partner. Ronnie's the managing editor.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Say editor. See, here we go. I'm already being corrected. Thank you. Hello, Ronnie. Sorry about that. she knows I know. It's like
yeah, so managing partner. Correct that managing partner. So basically that's who I am. And it means that I send the invoices, I pay the bills, I do some sales.
I was just gonna say that the most important thing, he pays all the bills. There you go.
That's absolutely.
Yeah. So one of the things that obviously we wanted to announce the fact that we were having a podcast and bringing a podcast to West Hartford or Greater West Hartford for that matter, because it was something that we've talked about for a long time and just sort of made sense, off of this sort of digital platform that we were all maybe perhaps forced into a little bit quicker or a little bit sooner because of the pandemic than we might have been. So Bob and I did try to just take a stab at a quick little agenda for today. But one of the things before I forget, I did want to mention on later in the month of July, we are going to have our first official guest, and his name is Andreas, and he is the president of NBT Bank. We are thrilled to have Andreas on because he will talk all about the wonderful things that NBT Bank is doing in the community, all their plans for expansion. They are currently, their main office, their first office location in West Hartford is in Corporate Center West. And as long as everything comes together, Ronnie Newton and John Lyons will be the hosts who interview Andreas. But as Ronnie pointed out to me, that's 2 days before her daughter's due date. So that all depends on Mother Nature, I guess, right, Bob?
Absolutely.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. But if, certainly, as you all know, if Ronnie can be with us, she will be. Otherwise, we'll just we'll try to pick up in her absence. So Andreas, it's been crazy trying to put together, a timeline for all of us to get together, but we really are looking forward to it. And because NBT is our sponsor, we just thought that it was fitting to have Andreas as the president of the bank be our first guest. And then periodically over the course of the year, almost on a quarterly basis, we will have different people from NBT Bank on the financial side and the commercial side speaking to us about their services and what they provide and how they're involved in the community. So it won't be the first and only time that you hear from NBT Bank. So we're excited about it. And thank you, NBT Bank and Andreas for being our sponsor. It's very safe to say, I don't know, Bob, what did we have this idea for a podcast? 2 years ago, it was around the pandemic, but we kept saying, we need a sponsor. We're not going to do it without a sponsor. So
that's exactly true. We had talked about this and getting a sponsor for both Business Buzz, which is the premier column on Brtought.com, as well as a podcast to go along with it to chat about the businesses and really what's going on in West Hartford. That was key. So in order to the expense of doing this being covered by that sponsorship, which is great, and we really appreciate NBT Bank stepping up.
Great. And if you don't mind, Bob, I think we should give a little plug for people to subscribe. If by chance anyone from West Hartford has been living under a rock for the last 7 years, or so, or not subscribing yet to Brtought.com, you certainly don't want to miss Business Buzz, on Mondays. Brtought.com it's published every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, but it's free and it's simple enough to subscribe simply by going to the website we-ha.com and clicking subscribe. And as I always say to everybody, if for some reason, and we don't believe that will ever be the case, you're not completely satisfied or happy with the product, you can unsubscribe. So please join us. There you go, Ronnie. How's that? So, but Bob, maybe am I going a little bit out of order? I'm just trying to keep our agenda under control so we don't forget anything.
I think
But
we're moving along. I think we're moving along okay. I think,
okay, so
we
yeah,
just
maybe it's a good time to talk about this word. Again, it's this happens to be recorded on the morning that Bob's column was published about the media, on WeHad.com. So here we are, not talking about media, but I'm throwing a new word out there. It's sort of a new buzzword, been around for a long time, but we seem to be using it much more today than we have or over the course of the last couple of years, and that's reach. REACH, sort of who's listening and who's tuned in and how many people, can I count on, hearing or listening to my message. And it really has exploded. And I'd love, Bob, if you could explain for everyone sort of how, I loved your explanation of, of how Turley, newspapers and WeHa are working together, and without putting anybody in a spot, because we don't have all the answers. It would be great someday if we could have Jewish Ledger and West Hartford Magazine and and everybody sort of involved in what we're doing. I always say to Bob, and we laugh about it, does a town like West Hartford really need a West Hartford Press, a West Hartford Life, a West Hartford Magazine, a Jewish Ledger, so how can we make it easier and simpler, for A, our readers, and B, our businesses, who want to attract, an audience in West Hartford?
Well, so our work with Turley Publications kind of came out of the fact that there's too much to cover in West Hartford. And early in the process of WeHad.com, we worked with West Hartford Life, the editor there at the time, to cover. So it's Ronnie and Abby, I believe her name was, would split or look covering different events at town council meetings, education meetings, etc. So it gave them both a little bit of a break and a little bit of time off. What that eventually happened is Abby left, and Turley was looking for an editor. Ronnie covers most of the stories in West Hartford. It allowed us to make a few more dollars, which is great, but also allowed our information to be published in Turley Publications. And then after they publish West Hartford Life, if there is a specific story that Ronnie wants to run in WeHad.com, she's able to take it and run it into WeHad.com. So it's a collaborative effort on the editorial side. And as you know, on the sales side, it was a collaborative effort, since we have the preeminent, you, me, Ronnie, and Kosick, the preeminent news website in West Hartford. And I say that without any bones about that. We are the preeminent digital website in West Hartford for news.
Here. Yeah, absolutely.
Based on all our demographics. We've partnered with Turley as well to give them their salespeople the option to sell to customers into our product. So we have a few items that appear on our newsletter or in our publication, on the web, that are sold by Turley sales reps, which is great. So we have kind of expand that, and talking about the nature of the current space of digital news. You need that collaboration. Too many sites struggle, which is part of the article I wrote this morning, or the editorial I wrote this morning. So too many sites struggle. So as far as the incorporating other media, which I hate to use that term, but we're going to there are opportunities. I'd like to see us have more coverage for the Jewish population in West Hartford in WeHad.com. I'd love to have some of that stuff that is published in our product. But again, as you know, editorially, Ronnie controls the editorial, and she should. And we can suggest ideas and thoughts, but at the end of the day, I tell everyone who's out there, when something's published, or if you want something published, it's not really up to me. It's not up to Tom, not up to Kosick. It's truly up to Ronnie, unless you want to pay for a sponsored post, in which case it's like an advertisement.
Yeah, absolutely. And Bob, if you don't mind, I'll just segue into that, because if Hillary were on with us this morning. Hillary works for Jewish Ledger and 2020 Media, who owns Jewish Ledger now. But Hillary came up with a really great concept. Oh gosh, I don't know when it was, Bob. Maybe I don't know. It might have been a year ago. I'm not sure, but no more than a year ago, where for years the Jewish Ledger has done these digital e-blasts, referred to as DEBs, DEB, digital e-blasts, and she came up with the idea. Geez, if they're doing them, and let me back up. They have an amazing open rate, very similar to the success that WeHunt.com has, something like 30% or something open rate, for the message. So it's basically an email for the, if I'm trying to dumb it down, that gets sent out to all of the email addresses, that we have. Well, obviously, over the course of the 93-year history, of Jewish Ledger, they have a lot of email addresses, nearly 50,000, email addresses that are available, for a message, to be sent out. But if you add, my email addresses, Tom Hickey's email addresses, if you add, Jewish Ledger to it, if you add West Hartford Magazine, if you add all of our events, when people buy tickets on Eventbrite for a Best of West Hartford or a Taste of West Hartford, the numbers are much more substantial. So Hillary has been, and will continue to sort of work on how we can make a go of this, and how we can provide a new service to the community. And I think it's all timing, but I think that might be something that will help us, especially Ronnie doesn't need more stories to write, a little bit. So if people could, for a reasonable price, have their message delivered through these DEBs, that might be something of interest to people. And it might not be, but we'll find out. But just something new that I told Hillary I would mention today, because the numbers are so substantial. And I'm going to use this one little story that I quite often tell people almost on a daily basis. But my son Garrett got married prior to the pandemic. So at that time, we featured his wedding in West Hartford Magazine. So my wife would have gone to Barnes and Noble, bought 24 copies of the magazine, brought them home, wrote notes on them, and snail mailed them to all the aunts and uncles, a little bit. If you got married during the pandemic, like Ronnie's daughter or good friends of Garrett's, Caitlin and Dan, all you had to do was copy and paste the link and send it to your whole universe. So you had like 24 aunts who saw it, prior to the pandemic, or you had 35,000 people who saw it, because you could very easily copy and paste a link and send it to everyone. Not that everyone's going to look at it, but just, good to know that you got it out to everybody and shared, a special occasion. And that's something that you could do with a news story, or, an event, or a marketing idea, through these DEBs. So I think it will be something that will evolve over time, as Bob and I figure out more, how it can work best, and how to provide it as a service to the community.
Yeah,
So,
that's
yeah,
very true. That's very
stay
true.
stay
Yeah,
tuned. We don't
yeah.
have all the answers.
I want to pop in there with I've used the DEB. I've suggested for customers to use it. Customers have used it. It's been a successful way to get a wider audience, or a different audience. Just real quick, Tom's a marketer. He does a great job in marketing, as well as a publisher. And one of the things that we need to look at as across the board for our advertisers is different ways for them to reach the audience they're looking to reach. And
Yep.
so whether it is WeHunt.com, or Jewish Ledger, or using the DEB product, or using West Hartford Magazine, that those are all different options that are deployed, and we have and Charlie Publications as well.
Yeah.
We can work with to get the message out through a variety of sources to specific audiences that may not look at all of them, but though they may have just one of them.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a good way to get out there. And again, I did use DEB for one client last year, had great response. So I want to say that that's a great product.
Great. Excellent. All right, so we'll give applause to Hillary, even though she's not on today. We'll have Hillary on when we have more information to update and share with everybody, which would be great. Now, believe it or not, we are more than halfway through our first podcast. So I did want to use this as an opportunity to acknowledge and thank NBT Bank again for sponsoring us. Without their business support and without their sponsorship, Bob and I would not be able to bring this podcast conversation to you this morning. So thanks again to NBT Bank. All right. Now, one of the things that Bob sort of, I'll use it as a segue, when you were talking about the Debs and sort of how people like to try to figure out what works best for them. We also, on the marketing side, have an event side. We have a lot of things that are going on right now. We happen to be in the middle of our 9th annual Best of West Hartford voting. And trying to, help people, retain their title, or help new people, get the word out that they are around. And just a plug for Best of West Hartford. One of the things I would love to say to everyone is, when you're voting, what I like best about it is truly it's a People's Choice Award. But what I like best about it is there's always a write-in for every category. If somebody was not represented or someone's a brand new business that just opened, a couple months ago, even if somebody these days, unfortunately, was a business who closed, 10 months ago, but, for the first, half of the year or the first quarter, you were supporting and you were involved, when you still have an opportunity to write them in. And last year, our winner, there was a write-in category at the end, which we kept this year, that was just for a business if we had not included a category yet for them. As you can imagine, there's a million different, categories that we could have. And that was West Hartford Cleaning, who won as a residential commercial, cleaning company. So what I like about it is, I think, and unless you have anything else, or disagree, Bob, I think it's really an opportunity for people to have bragging rights, in town, and say that they are either the winner or they're one of the top 3 or runner up, or, whatever, it may be. And if we can, hopefully you've seen it, but either on the highway or through social media, I have been sharing the Westfield Bank's billboard that they put on Interstate 84 that basically had the Best of West Hartford logo on it and acknowledged that they won the banking category. So the people are really taking it to the next level for us, and we're very excited about that.
Yeah, no, the Best of West Hartford is a great event. I think the idea is a tremendous idea. What I would say this about, and anyone's asked me about Best of West Hartford, I say basically the same thing. There's good and there's West Hartford good. So to be successful in West Hartford, if you're a restaurant or a cleaners or a lawn service, the requirements of doing a job very well, I think are high, very high standards within the town of West Hartford. So it's a prestigious place to be. If you win the award or you're in the top 3, to be nominated, that people write you in, those are all very, very positive aspects because of the nature of the town itself, which has high standards. Let's be fair. I mean, West Hartford is one of the best places to live in the United States, has some of the best school systems, public school systems, has great private schools. I mean, you have an excellent growth process in that area. I've said this on a previous chat with someone on a podcast. I believe West Hartford's a new downtown of the area. I mean, it is what Hartford probably was 35, 40 years ago, a destination location. So that's West Hartford actually, kind of promotes that, and it brings that out. And this is unsolicited from Tom. Tom didn't ask me to say anything about it, but I will say the town itself is well run, and it is now the destination for the local marketplace.
Right. Here, I love it too. That's and just maybe a little plug. This year we're doing it a little bit differently, actually going back to the way that it was done in the first 2 years. We will be announcing all of the winners in advance. So in early July, we will actually be announcing, all through our social media, through WeHad.com and Jewish Ledger, etc. But in West Hartford Magazine, we will list who the winners are. So hopefully the last Monday of July, which is Monday, July 31st, we're having the actual awards night, which really has turned into a huge business to business networking event. I plug it and call it the largest because it is the largest networking event within West Hartford for the business community. And we found a great partner in having it at the Mandel JCC, the Jewish Community Center, because we have so much room. What was very important to us in finding a new location and a new partner was, regardless of what happens health-wise in the world of pandemics and everything else that we have had thrown at us over the course of the past few years, the facility, it can be held indoors, it can be held outdoors. There are so many options at the Mandel JCC. We will never have to postpone the event. We may just have to internally change the location, on the campus. But right now, it is, keep that date in mind, Monday, July 31st, right after work, 5:30 to 8:30, and a very fun evening. You can, when you dinner comes with your ticket, and one, I think it's one free specialty drink called a weehaw, and then you're on your own, after that. But it's a very fun evening and a great way to see everyone. And we do it on a Monday night because we don't like to compete with anything else. And many of the chefs and businesses have asked for it to be on a Monday night because they don't have conflicts. So we really try to gear it toward the business community. Sorry, general public, but in this case, because it is all about the best of West Hartford. So if you can join us, that'd be great. That's where we will. That's where we will be. The only other
we didn't talk about the tastes.
We didn't, and I think, Bob, maybe what we'll do is spend some time talking about the tastes in a future podcast. But one thing that I think this is even news to you. I wrote it in my publisher's column for West Hartford Magazine as an announcement. But after many meetings over the course of the last 10 days, primarily with our sponsors, again, without sponsors, we can't provide any of these things that we do, our taste of events and whatnot. But it was interesting that, if you remember, 2 years ago, we brought the Bears to West Hartford, which was sort of 15 years later after doing the cows, the Jewish Ledger, brought back the Bears. Then last year it was the dogs. And then Hillary actually had a great idea this year where we were going to ask the general public what they would like the next, outdoor art exhibit to be. I'm not even going to steal the thunder yet and tell you what it is, but they did decide. But what came out of my sponsor meetings is that we're going to do the outdoor art exhibit now every other year. And that was sort of how we had started it, but we just didn't know that the pandemic was going to go on as long, as it did. And the reason why the sponsors, this is the big news that we're bringing to you on this podcast. The reason why the sponsors want to do that is because they want us to bring back WeHa Wheels. So that's a huge undertaking and a big announcement. And we already have major support from our sponsors, for that. So hopefully by the time we get on our next podcast, Bob and I will not only be talking about the taste of events, but we'll be able to let you know much more about bringing back WeHa Wheels. Unfortunately, it will not be with the great purple vehicle that we had last time, because our partner was Premier Limousine, and they, unfortunately, after 3 generations, did not make it through the pandemic. They went out of business, so we will miss them. But we have lots of other options and plans up our sleeve to share with you. So watch for that. And then, Bob, what we'll do is we'll talk about the taste of events next time we're on.
Sounds good.
All right. Well, again, thanks to everybody for tuning in. This was Tom Hickey and Bob Carr, just chatting with you about introducing our podcast to you. Again, special thanks and acknowledgement to NBT Bank for making all of this possible. And please, we'll keep you posted and tuned in as to when our next podcast will be. Our ultimate goal is that there'll be 2 podcasts airing per month. And it will be a variety. Sometimes it'll be me and Bob, sometimes it'll be Hillary, sometimes Ronnie and John, and we already have, I think, a half a dozen guests who are interested in coming, on board with us. So here we go. But and hopefully the summertime will be a great time to launch this and get everyone excited, because while you're away or sitting on the beach, you can listen to our podcast, or sitting in traffic, maybe I should say that, right, Bob?
Absolutely, right,
and
absolutely.
route to your vacation. Yeah. So,
Well, thanks, Tom. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it. Look forward to doing this again.
great. Sounds good. Thanks again, Bob. Take care, everybody. We'll see you soon.